to Teal House Farm, and for a beautiful but cold snowy day I figured a great project would be to go ahead and show you all some tips and tricks to keeping your cast iron. When it comes to homesteading or farmsteading or more natural type living, a lot of people like to use cast iron for cooking. But a lot of people seem to be a little hesitant to start. I know I was, because it's a lot different than cookware that you've probably been using forever, which is your non-stick Teflon coated pans or maybe some stainless steel pots and pans. Cast iron is just different, but it's not complicated. And once you know what you're doing, it's actually quite simple. So don't be intimidated. Let's talk about it, and then you can feel confident getting started with your own cast iron stash, and pretty soon it'll be the only pots and pans that you ever want to use for cooking because they really are the best. Cast iron, when it's cared for really well, is naturally non-stick. But if you don't take care of it, it's going to be a sticky nightmare of a disaster of a pan. The care is really simple. I cooked lunch in this pan. You can see it's not perfectly clean. There's a little bit of residue. But what I cooked popped right out of the pan, didn't stick, didn't leave a big mess, and so the cleanup is actually very easy. With situations like this, the only thing that you need to do to clean your pan is to take steel wool, or I actually prefer this chain link because it's reusable a bajillion times. I've had this for several years. And you give it a scrub over the sink. We'll do it here now. You want to do this over the sink though, so all your residue goes in the sink. You don't need water. This isn't a real dirty pan. We're just going to scrub out any of the leftovers, scrape them out into the sink and wash them down. That's it. If you have a pan that's a little bit dirtier, you still want to use your steel wool or chain link. I'll actually link this below if you want to try something like this. And you're going to run the hottest water you can stand over your pan while scrubbing it, and it should knock it right off. Never, ever, ever use soap with your cast iron. You do not want your cast iron non-greasy. The grease is what makes things not stick. And if you use a dish soap, which is designed to strip grease off of plates, it's going to take all that beautiful seasoning off your cast iron pan, and then you have to start all over. If you use water to wash your pan, you need to go ahead and dry it out and put another coat of what they call seasoning on it. We're going to put the stove top here just on a low heat, just for a minute. You'll see the water is going to evaporate very quickly. I typically use lard to grease up my pans. You can use pretty much any animal fat that's refined, so tallow. I do use bacon grease sometimes. That's okay. You can use oils if you're, a vegetarian or a vegan and you don't want to use animal fat. You can use an olive oil or a coconut oil. I would stay away from cheaper oils, but if you're desperate, you could use a vegetable oil. I mean, it would be fine. But the more natural, the more pure that the oil is, the better it's going to be for your pan. And remember, this seasoning process or this greasing process is what makes your pan non-stick, what makes them so awesome to cook with, and everything that comes off of them so flavorful. So you want to make good choices when you're choosing what to use to grease up your pan. Our pan looks nice and dry. You can use a paper towel. You could use an old flannel square. I've done that before if you're not wanting to use paper towels. I'll be honest, using a reusable, like a rag that you would wash and use over again, doesn't work really well because it gets so greasy and dingy. We're just going to take that and we're going to spread it on our warm pan here so it can bake in. I don't do the bottom of the pan every time. I do the bottoms of the pan maybe once a month. I'll go through and work on all my cast iron. Just like that. Once your pan is cooled off enough to touch it, you can go ahead and store it. It's that easy. If you take good care of your pans, you are rarely going to have to scrub them with hot water. Whatever you're cooking should pop right out, and a little bit of steel wool or the chain link will go ahead and knock off any residue. If it is extra scorched, just super hot water, no soap, with the steel wool. Give it a good scrub and some elbow grease, it'll come off, and then you want to dry it on the stove and re-grease it, and then it's ready to be stored. A little tip, If you have an odd pan like this drop biscuit pan, which is actually pretty neat, made some yummy coffee cakes in it a while ago, perfect size. This doesn't quite fit on my stovetop, so it's hard to warm up universally if you need to re-grease it. And so things like this, or I have a really large Dutch oven with a cast iron lid too, which can't really fit on my stovetop. Those I do in the oven. I'll warm them up in the oven at like 325 and then re-grease them that way since they don't quite fit on the stovetop. And now that we've spent some time showing you all of this beautiful cast iron and how simple it is to take care of, we're gonna go ahead and use it to do some yummy cooking for tonight. We're going to make a cast iron apple pie. It is Sam's absolute favorite dessert. It's super simple, but I'll warn you, if your New Year's resolution was to drop a few lbs, this is not going to be the recipe for you. Let's go.